Now let's watch the next clip. There's going to be some more controversial things coming up now, so brace yourself.
That issue aside, what you'll actually find is what they really mean is if you love me, you'll go to church on Saturday. Because bearing false witness about Christians, for example, is hard-coded into their system of theology. They murder unborn children in their hospitals. They proselytize a false god, which is an idol. They make images and depictions of what they believe to be a person of the Godhead, violating the second commandment, and so on.
Wait, before you go, Edwin, because I know you're just gonna like go crazy on this one. I wish I could ask him, is it wrong to murder unborn babies? Is it wrong to have images and idols of God? Is it wrong to bear false witness? And why is it wrong? How do you know that it's wrong? I wonder if he does those things and why, and if he doesn't do those things, why he doesn't do them. Is it because it's written in the 10 Commandments? So he's basically accusing Seventh-day Adventists of breaking the 10 Commandments, while at the same time arguing that we don't have to keep the 10 Commandments. Does that make sense? Like it just doesn't make sense what he's saying.
One thing I'll point out, he does in some way say we got to keep the 10 Commandments, but really what he's saying though leads to the breaking of the commandments. I'll tell you why. Because he says that the fourth commandment was changed. So here's the thing, right? James chapter 2 tells us that when you break one, you break them all. By saying that the fourth commandment was changed to another day, and so you disregard the original commandment for a new day, you're then breaking the fourth commandment. But in essence, what that's doing is breaking all of them. So at the end of the day, what he's promoting with that theory and that idea is a violation of all of God's commandments. Because clearly, once again, James 2:10 says that if you break one, you break them all. So in essence, it's the same thing. But watch this, right? Yeah, I am going to go ham on this. So watch this.
Aside, what you'll act.
All right.
Can I just say that? Did he say they'll tell you if you love God, go to church on Saturday or something like that? Was that his exact words? Mm-hmm. Another straw man. Like it's not just about going to church on Saturday. That's not really what we're advocating. Yes, you should go to church on the Sabbath, but you should keep the whole Sabbath day holy. And that's another difference between people that don't keep the Sabbath and people who do. We understand that God made a whole 24-hour period where he wants to spend with us. When you go to church on a Sunday, a lot of people don't necessarily keep it the whole day. It's like an hour in church and then you live the rest of your day however you want. But that's not really what God was looking for. And that's not the argument that we make. He's not showing love to God by just going to church on a Saturday. If you look in Ezekiel, it says, I gave them my Sabbath so that they can know that I am the God that sanctifies them. Meaning he's making us completely holy. He's completely transforming us. And the Sabbath is just a sign that he's doing that. He's the God that we're serving. He's the God that we're allowing to completely transform us and make us holy. So.
That's right. All right, now watch this. So he mentioned a couple of things here. He mentioned they murder unborn babies in their hospitals. He mentioned a couple of other things here, but I'm going to start there. This is a topic that's quite controversial. Now, I don't want this to get into any political or any emotional stuff with anybody in the chat. I just want to show directly what we have here in front of us, what the facts are. All right. And let the chips fall where they may. Let everyone make their own decisions. Miles' statement is quite inaccurate in certain senses, and I'm going to explain how. First of all, let's talk about what Ellen White says. Remember what he said earlier. He says that by way of Ellen White, the church teaches such and such, right? Although the church does not believe that Ellen White's writings are the foundation of our beliefs. We believe it's the Bible. But say, for example, that were the case, then he should then agree that we believe what Ellen White said here. And we actually do, by the way. We agree with this. And the church put out a statement on it, which we're going to look at in a moment. But notice what she says. And by the way, whoever gets this, remember what I said earlier. If you share this live stream on your Facebook page, if you share this on your Twitter, if you share this, whoever, send me an email saying that you shared it. And I'm going to send you this PowerPoint. In the private comments of these PowerPoints, there's links and there's other comments that you're going to see that you're not going to see here, so that you can go ahead and look at these things and verify them. All right. In this particular writing, Ellen White, she's referencing the story of Samson and how the angel came and told the wife to be careful to do and not to do certain things while pregnant with the baby because it would affect the child. So she's referencing a child in the womb. That's the context. Very important. Notice what she even mentions that in the third paragraph, speaking about before the birth of a child, she is self-indulgent. If she is selfish, impatient, and exacting, these traits will be reflected in the disposition of the child. Now watch this. In the next paragraph, she says, but if the mother unreservedly adheres to right principles, if she is temperate and self-denying, remember, while pregnant, if she is kind, gentle, and unselfish, she may give her child these same precious traits of character. Very explicit was the command prohibiting the use of wine by the mother. Every drop of strong drink taken by her to gratify appetite endangers the physical, mental, and moral health of the child and is a direct sin against her creator. In other words, she believed that the child that was in the womb, if that child was hurt, that was a sin against the creator. That's what she believed. She was not pro-abortionist, in other words, to use modern terminology, right? Because she believed that that child was precious. Now watch this. Here's another quotation. This is from James White, even though some people say that this was Ellen White herself. And again, the link is on the bottom for those who receive this. So share this and send me an email at info.adventdefenseleague@gmail.com. Few are aware of the fearful extent to which this nefarious business, this worse than devilish practice, is carried on in all classes of society. Many women determine that she will not become a mother and subjects herself to the vilest treatment, committing the basest crime to carry out her purpose. And many a man who has as many children as he can support, instead of restraining his passions, aids in the destructions of the babe he has begotten. What you're seeing here is that she was once again against the practice of abortion, and she called it a worse than devilish practice. All right, follow me now. Watch this. The Seventh-day Adventist Church released a statement about abortion some years back. Let's go through that statement carefully. We're not going to read the whole thing for sake of time, but I want you to notice first something that they say very important towards the beginning of this. It says, the church, while not being the conscience of individual believers, has the duty to convey the principle and teachings of the Word of God. In other words, the church, what it's doing is allowing people to make their own decisions. It's not speaking for the people, but it feels it has a duty to convey the importance of this belief that they're going to talk about in a moment, right? Of anti-abortion, basically, right? So what the church is saying is individuals have a right to make the decisions they want, but we believe that this is wrong, and here's why. And then they're going to go through why they believe that abortion is wrong. So the church put out a statement condemning the act of abortion. Watch this. And we're going through the document here, and the link is towards the bottom for whoever receives it. But notice what it says in the portions that I've circled or boxed in. The sixth commandment states, "You shall not kill," which calls for the preservation of human life. The principle to preserve life enshrined in the sixth commandment, watch this, places abortion within its scope. Jesus reinforced the commandment not to kill in Matthew 5. Life is protected by God. It is not measured by individuals' abilities or the usefulness, but by the value that God's creation and sacrificial love has placed upon it. That's pretty clear. That's very clear that the church believes it is breaking God's commandment. This is the Seventh-day Adventist Church in an official voted upon statement where the worldwide church voted against abortion and made this statement. Now notice, towards the bottom, since God is the giver and owner of life, human beings do not have ultimate control over themselves and should not seek to preserve life, wherever possible. The principle of the stewardship of life obligate, so on and so forth. Look at the next part. As we go down, I have to kind of put it on the side. It says decisions in such cases may be left to the conscience of the individual involved and their families. Again, the church is saying if individuals want to do this, we're not going to control people, but we believe this is what they're basically saying. Notice what it says in the next part. The Seventh-day Adventist Church considers abortion out of harmony of God's plan for human life. How clear is that? It affects the unborn, obviously, the mother, the father, the immediate and extended family members, the church family, and society with its long-term consequences. While not condoning abortion, the church and its members are called to follow the example of Jesus, being full of grace and truth. Then towards the end, it says, number 5, provide the emotional and spiritual support to those who have aborted a child for various reasons or were forced to have an abortion and may be hurting physically, emotionally, spiritually. So in conclusion, it's basically saying we're not going to force people in our church to do or not to do, right? However, this is what we believe. We're against it. Yet whoever has done it, we need to show them love and we need to respect them and show them support. Basically what the document is saying. So, and if you guys have comments on it, you can jump on in. But watch this next portion now. Now I want to mention the hospitals now. All right. A lot of people aren't aware of this, and I'm aware of a lot of this because I worked in the medical field for 15 plus years at this point. Not anymore, but I did for a long time. And I worked in the Adventist health system as well. Notice what it says here. There's a difference between Adventist health and Advent health. Advent health was bought out from the Adventist church. All right. So even though the church, these particular hospitals may do things that the church does not agree with, yet it was bought out. Watch this. We owe much to our heritage to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which began a successful healthcare ministry in 1866 when it opened its first sanitarium in Battle Creek. Like our church fathers, we promote wellness treatment of the whole person, mind, body, soul. However, we are separately owned and operated. Did you catch that? And by the way, the link is here inside of the PowerPoint. So again, share this PowerPoint, send us an email, and we'll share the PowerPoint with you, and you'll have all of it. Notice this. This is very important now. When the church released the statement that we just read on abortion, it also released a statistical study that took place. As you see there in the parallels you're seeing, you have various Adventist institutions, right? Some of these are Adventists. Some of these haven't been bought out like Advent Health was, right, in Florida. Some of these are Adventists. But notice what happens as time goes by and we draw closer and closer to our time, the number of terminations of pregnancies decreases. Why is that? Because the church has recognized, and if you follow the link I gave you, you're going to notice that the leadership actually admitted to the error. They recognized that they were not doing this in the appropriate way. And so, because of that, as time went by, their aim was to get to 0 terminations. Notice what it says towards the bottom. It shall be clearly stated that the aim is to approach 0 as much and as safely as possible. The church is progressively, the medical institutions of the church are progressively moving towards that because they recognize that this was wrong. Here's an important point. Landless pointed out that almost all of the terminations of the 5 Adventist hospitals and systems reviewed, the ones you're seeing on screen, related to dramatic fetal abnormalities that would make life outside the womb impossible. So in other words, even that which did take place, even those terminations which did take place, was in most cases those which would have either way made life outside the womb impossible for various reasons. There's some other research that shows that the mother would have been harmed, so on and so forth. And so the church did recognize that it had an issue that was against even the counsel by Ellen White, even the counsel by the early church fathers, because if you actually do a research, nearly all the early church, pioneers, not church fathers, pioneers of the church, nearly all of them that I found spoke out against this act. The church did make the mistake of doing this, but recognize the error. Of course, critics don't offer that grace, but thank God God does. Recognize the error and is moving towards not doing that anymore. towards zero. Did that make sense? Any questions or comments on that, brother?
Yeah, this was absolutely clear. So basically, if I summarize everything that you said, Ellen White's official position on it is abortion is wrong. That is something that I've never heard any critics say. They say, "Oh, you Seventh-day Adventists, your hospitals abort babies, so you're murderers." So first thing that you said was her position was it's wrong. The second thing that I heard you say is the church's official position is that it's wrong, but we don't force people to make that decision. We give them all the information, and prayerfully they'll make the right decision, but we leave that in their hands. And the third thing I heard you say was that these hospitals are acting independently from the church. Did I hear that correctly? That the hospitals are acting independently from the church?
From the council of the church. Now, not all of the hospitals, because as you can see, some of them are indeed Adventist hospitals, but nevertheless, they recognize that they've allowed these hospitals to do this, that was an error, and they're moving towards removing that completely and getting to zero abortions. Now, there are other hospitals that were bought out that continue to do this, but even though they bear the name Advent, they have been bought out and they don't represent the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And those hospitals, unfortunately, continue that act.
Yeah, this is pretty clear. Yeah.
All right. Does that make sense? And so, therefore, to make a sweeping statement like that, they murdered unborn child in their hospitals. You know, it just shows a lack of serious research. A lack of serious consideration of what actually took place and what's taking place. A lot of these critics, like Miles, will fall back on the church fathers to base what they believe, right? And they'll say, well, the church fathers taught this, and so we agree. All right. We're not against the church fathers. I appreciate the writings of the church fathers, although I don't agree always with the writings of the church fathers. Many of them contradict the scriptures, especially on the Sunday Sabbath issue. But nonetheless, why don't they ever point out to what we've originally taught within the pioneers of our church? Because they've always taught against this practice, but they'll just make a sweeping statement about what the church currently does and say this is the belief of every Seventh-day Adventist. That is poor research.
They have to keep their channel going some way, you know. So they have to keep making up new things to.
It's called sensationalism.
Yeah,
right.
You gotta
now watch this.
Keep it going.
Now watch this. He made a couple of other statements. You'll see me respond in between. He says, bearing false witness about Christians regarding going to church on Sunday. Not revealing the context of Edgy White's quote was itself bearing false witness. So he'll accuse us of bearing false witness, but then he'll take a quote out of Ellen White, take it out of context, and say it means one thing when the context says another. That itself is bearing false witness. He says they proselytize a false god, which is an idol. That's merely his opinion. He believes that our God is a different God from the Bible. Well, that's your opinion. If you want to believe that, that's fine, but you need to prove that from the scriptures, and so far you haven't done it. He says they make pictures and images violating the second commandment, while at the same time having images himself in his same logo. So here's the thing, right? When you read the 10 Commandments, especially the second commandment, it doesn't say that you can't make pictures and images. It doesn't say that, because even God told the Israelites to make images in the sanctuary, because you've got images of angels there. You've got a whole bunch of imagery going on there. God is not violating his own commandment. Miles will say this and make another sweeping statement as if it's accurate. It's totally inaccurate. It lacks some seriousness, some serious depth of study and consideration to what the commandment actually says. It does not forbid pictures and images. It forbids bowing down to pictures and images. That's what it forbids. And in the same way, Miles doesn't take an image of the cross and bow down to it. Seventh-day Adventists don't take any images and bow down to it as well. And so I believe there's a certain, what's called a double standard here, while at the same time not considering what the text actually says. And I appreciate the what Bobby said there. It just looked it up, and his own Presbyterian hospitals perform abortions. You know, I wonder if those hospitals are moving towards zero, like we're trying to do, or like our hospitals are trying to do.
Wow.
I wonder.
Bobby, this is why you're my guy, by the way. This right here, this comment right here, like, that's good stuff. Anyway, sorry. That's good.
All right. I'll tell you, man, it's very easy to point out the sins of another when you don't point out the sins of your own. It's very easy. But it may be what you said, Jason. You got to keep the channel going, right? Let's go ahead and watch the next clip.